If you're retiring with an RRSP, how you draw it down matters far more than you think. And most Canadians go about it completely wrong. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through a real life scenario I've seen where half an RRSP, over $300,000, was completely wiped out to taxes. And then I'll show you how to proper planning could have preserved that wealth while still meeting all of their retirement income needs. Before I jump into the software, I just want to explain what a RRIF is and why this could possibly happen to you. So the first thing is an RRSP, a registered retirement savings plan, needs to convert or move into a RRIF, a registered retirement income fund. It's now for income by the year you turn 71. So the year you turn age 71, you have to convert your RRSP into a RRIF. The year you turn 72, you have to start drawing money out of there. You're forced to. That's the current requirement in Canada here. So if you have an RRSP, which majority of you watching this video will have an RRSP through personal savings or work plan, whatever it is, in the year you turn 71, you're forced to convert it to a RRIF. And that the whole idea behind that is hopefully you're retired by then and you start drawing down that money. Now, once you've converted your RRSP to a RRIF, again, you need to draw it down. Now, let's take age 71 as an example. There's a percentage every year that you need to take out of your RRIF, and it's based on the account value at the end of the previous year. So let's say you're 71 this year, you've already converted to a RRIF, and you need to take that minimum amount out. Well, the minimum at age 71 is 5.28%. So if we assume your RRSP was worth $100,000 at the end of the year previously, then you need to take out $5,280. That's a minimum amount you need to take out. Now again, the minimum amount you have to take is based on age and account value at the end of the previous year. So it's going to be different for everybody. And again, you can Google it and see what the minimum is, but you're forced to start taking some out. Now, this is also a good thing. You should start drawing this money out a little bit earlier, create some tax efficiency. But for many of you, and I'll jump into the software here in a second, for many of you, you wait till 71 to convert it, and then you're only drawing out the minimum amount. Well, if you're only drawing out 5.28%, it does increase percentage-wise over time, but it takes a really long time to deplete that asset. And when it takes a long time, or even if your rate of return is over 5.28% that year, your RRIF actually grows in value. So here you are in retirement, you're trying to deplete that account, make sure you don't die with a big amount, but you're not taking enough. And that count for a lot of you watching this video into your 70s and 80s continues to grow and grow and grow. So as you start planning and looking at when do I convert my RRSP to a RRIF, how much do I take out, you need to consider, well, do I want to get to end of life with this massive account? Because as we'll see in the software here, leaving that massive amount at death can be very, very costly. Now, one caveat here is if you've worked up and you've built up a large RRSP and you say, Adam, that's great, but I don't need to take more than the minimum. Like that, maybe with your pension or other savings that you have, it meets your income needs. The reality is, of all the plans we do through our office, which are hundreds per year, I would say probably around half, if not more, of the plans that we do, we draw more out of the RRIF than the client actually needs. And then we're reinvesting that into a TFSA account, even possibly a non-registered account. I know that doesn't sound as tax efficient, but once you actually put it into the plan, a lot of the times it is. So again, maybe we're drawing a lot more out than you even need, but there's some tax planning in the background that's saving you possibly tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars of taxes as well. So even if you don't need it all, you need to have a proper drawdown plan to avoid that 40, 50+% tax rate at death. So I'm going to show you two plans here in our software. The first plan is just what a lot of you are doing, which is pulling out the minimum amount out of your RRIF account. The second plan I'm going to show you is a little bit of planning. I don't mean a full plan. I just mean a little bit of planning and the impact it can have on both current income in retirement, but mainly looking at estate planning and how much tax goes to CRA that you don't really need to pay. So here we have Ross and Rachel Geller. They're a 65-year-old couple, turned 65 here in 2026. Now, as far as their assets, I just want to quickly highlight their assets and then I'll show you the drawdown. So Ross, he has $600,000 in an RRSP, $100,000 TFSA, and $60,000 of cash. Rachel, $200,000 RRSP, $100 TFSA, again, the joint cash account of $60,000. And Rachel also has a small defined benefit pension plan. I shouldn't say small, a nice defined benefit pension plan of $30,000 as well. So if we first look at Rachel, we'll see that She has her pension, $30,000, and her RRIF. What I want to focus on is RRIF. Now, don't look at the rest of the plan. I haven't done all the planning. The RRIF is what we want to look at here. So she doesn't convert till age 71. Age 72 in the software, if we hover over it, it'll show us what our minimum amount, and that's what we've kept it at, $14,859. Next year is $15,114, and it keeps going over time. And you can see that principal amount really doesn't deplete that much, and I've only put a 5% rate of return on here. If I bumped up the rate of return, that principal would probably continue to go up until her later life. And you can see it hangs around that number for a very, very long time. Now, if we jump over to Ross, it's the same idea here. He's converted his RSP at age 71, starting to draw at age 72. So it's growing for the next 5-6 years, starts to pull it out, and you can see that RSP continues, RRIF at that point, continues to grow all the way through his retirement. Now, if we look at a combined view, their income requirement was $100,000 after tax in the go-go years, and then it scales down to 90 in the slow-go and 80 in the no-go years. They wanted it mapped out to age 90 with Ross till age 87. So they're going to assume that Ross passes away at life expectancy. Rachel lives a few more years, and so there's a bit of a transition of wealth. But what we want to look at here is the RSP or the RRIF. You can see when they're both age 87, there's about $807,000 left in their RRIF. Now, they've met all their income needs. They've had the $100,000, they've had the $90,000, they're now collecting $80,000, but there's still $800,000 sitting in the RRIF account. They still have a very well-funded TFSA. So on the surface, this plan looks great. Well-funded TFSA for flexibility. They've gotten what they're needed. They haven't overpaid tax because in their mind, they've left it sheltered in their RSP. But we can also see at the bottom of the page there, if we look at the RRIF account at age 90 for Rachel, if she was to pass away then, there's still $676,000 sitting in that account, meaning that in the year that she passes, because Ross has already passed away, that would be added to her income at final death. And here in BC and across the country, it's quite expensive. But Ross and Rachel were located here in BC, and her marginal tax rate, the top marginal tax rate, is 53.5%, meaning that a large portion of that $676,000 is taxed at over 50%. So if we pull up the estate summary here, you can see tax on estate. So the combined, the left view there, you can see there's a $330,000 tax bill on her estate, because they didn't plan properly. They only pulled out the minimum amount out of the RRIF over the years. So not a great situation to be in. Now let's quickly take a look at the same scenario, all the same data, except for a little bit of planning on the drawdown. Instead of waiting to 71, drawing out the minimum, which again, a lot of you are doing. You've heard this for years. I don't know why or who's telling you this, but they're telling you, wait on the RRIF, don't touch it, convert it, take out the minimum amount, and die and give CRA. Maybe it was CRA that was pumping out this info years ago, but we want to pay less tax. We want to put this money back in your pocket. If you don't need it, to your loved ones, to charities, whoever it is. We're tired of paying taxes. Let's pay less taxes. So strategies like this that I'm going to show you will help you pay less tax now and on death. So if we jump back into Ross here, we'll take a look at him first. You can see I have not changed the CPP or OAS here. I've left that at 65 just to show you a full apples to apples comparison. The only difference is you can see his RSP now. We've converted to a RRIF now at 65 versus waiting and drawing at 72. And we're taking much more than the minimum. So if I scroll over this, we'll see the minimum's $23,000 at age 65, but we're taking $45,000. We're taking much more because we want to create some tax strategy. And if I scroll down, we'll see that that account is depleted by about age 85. So just before life expectancy, we've depleted out that account. Now the same concept for Rachel here. CPP, OAS, both still starting at age 65, but also her RRIF is starting at 65. And we can see we're taking about $15,000 through her lifetime. Again, that minimum's about $7,600, so double the minimum. And again, there's not a straight calculation here. You have to work it in with the rest of your assets. She has that pension, she has other assets. All of that plays into the factor. What we're looking at is this effective or average tax rate and trying to level that out and deplete the asset by the time her life expectancy hits. So again, age 85 for her, we're making that last payment out of it. So when we look at a combined view, household, $100,000 of income in the go-go years, 90,000 slow-go, and 80 in no-go. So nothing has changed there. We've kept that all the same. The difference being, we can see now later on in life at age 87, there's $0 left in the RSP. At age 87, there's over $1 million in the TFSA. So the RSP or the RIF has been fully depleted. The TFSA has been very well funded. And in fact, we've started to build up a non-registered account. And so when we look at the tax on death, so at age 90 for Rachel, $1.2 million in the TFSA. If we look at the estate tax situation, you can see there's a nominal amount of $5,489 in taxes. And again, that is from the non-registered, some gains on the non-registered account. Everything else is in the tax-free, so way more tax efficient. So on the surface, this looks a lot better. We've depleted it out over time. We haven't left this big, massive $360,000 tax bill at death. So let's do a quick comparison between the two and look at just income, which we know is the same, the 190/80, so that hasn't changed. But how much tax are they paying while they're actually alive? Right? Maybe we saved a bunch of tax at death, but we're paying a lot more while we're alive. Like, how does this all map out? So if we look at a direct comparison, so number one is the no planning. Number two is the planning. So we can see lifetime expenses. That's how much money they've collected through their lifetime. This goes to age 90. I'll show some other ages here in a second. You can see it's the same number. We've collected that 190, 80, that hasn't changed. Lifetime taxes. So in the drawdown, the RSP meltdown strategy, we've paid pretty much the same amount of tax, $52 difference on that amount of money, pretty much identical. Okay, so we paid the same amount of tax while we're alive. What about at death? Again, we've gone from a much larger tax bill, $316,000 of tax, all the way down to $2,930. So a lot different in this situation. And you can see estate after tax, there's a $112,000 difference. So we're paying a lot less tax. Now let's scale it back to say age 87, life expectancy for both of them. We're paying a little bit more tax here, $61,000 while we're alive. Estate's worth $89,000 more, and we're saving, $325,000 on their estate. Now, what happens if they died earlier? Let's say they both passed away to age 80. Would melting down that RSP still make sense? Well, while they're alive, they're paying a little bit more tax, $107,000 more tax. But remember, their after-tax income is exactly the same. And I think that's a big key here. A lot of you think, well, I'm paid more tax, it can't be better. But we have to look at what's the after-tax money, right? When we retire, the number one focus should be, how do I get the most after-tax money in my pocket to spend and enjoy? And in this case, we provided them the exact same amount of after-tax money. Now, to get that, because we've done the meltdown, we've ended up paying a little bit more tax up front. We front-loaded the tax a little bit. But if we can collect the same amount of after-tax money in our pocket, then we need to look at, well, what does the estate look like? If I pass away, I've prepaid some taxes, so is there an actual benefit to that? And we can see here, it's a massive benefit. We paid $107,000 in our lifetime, but we pay $363,000 less at death. Again, this is death at age 80 for both of them. Meaning their estate, they've collected the same while they're alive, and their charity, their kids, whoever they're leaving their money to, gets $150,000 more of money. Now, again, scale that back even earlier. Well, what if they have an early death? Again, you can see the tax bill, $109,000 more tax, but the estate after tax, $145,000. So same income in retirement, but $145,000 more. Now, again, this doesn't have a proper RSP meltdown, CPP timing, all of that. So I want to quickly show you that from a very high level before I end this video. So here we have scenario 1 and scenario 3. Now, scenario 3 is the exact same that we looked at with the tax planning, but we've layered in delaying Canadian pension plan or Canada pension plan until age 70. And then we've drawn down the RSP even more aggressively. I'm not going to show it, but I just want to show the comparison. And you can see here the lifetime tax, we're paying a little bit more tax by doing that drawdown strategy. But the estate at age 90 is worth $272,000 more. You can see the massive amount of tax you're paying if you don't plan properly. Now, again, if we scale that back to life expectancy, age 87, we're over $200,000 ahead. Again, same income, after-tax income, $200,000 more for your estate. That's a massive, massive difference. If we look at age 80, again, I like to look at different ages because everyone's like, yeah, it works great if you live long, but what happens if you pass away early? Well, if you pass away at age 80, same income while you're alive, your beneficiaries get $140,000 more. Age 75, let's see what it does there. Same income in retirement, $89,000 more for your beneficiaries. What about age 70? We haven't even started CPP yet. More tax, same amount of income. So from 65 to 70, you've collected the same amount of income in each scenario, and your beneficiaries still are left with $8,800 more. So there you have it. Let's make sure you're not paying 50+% on your RIF when you pass away. You have to plan ahead. And maybe you have a parent. We've done a lot of plans for clients, and then they bring their parents in that are in their 80s, and they've fallen into this trap. They have not depleted their RIF accounts soon enough. So we more aggressively do it before time goes on. So it's better to do it now. Start planning ahead through your 50s, 60s, 70s, earlier in retirement. Create a proper drawdown strategy so that you don't get your 80s with this big account that CRA is just licking their chops for.